Does the world need another vocal tuning plugin? Stephen Slate says we do. Let's take a look at his new offering, MetaTune. So this is what MetaTune looks like when you open it up. It's pretty intuitive. At a quick glance, we can pretty much suss out that the keyboard is going to be used for determining keys and notes that are going to be tuned, and then a couple of macro knobs for quick adjustments. Let's start by listening to this vocal that I have.
The choir cuts just like the knife.
This is bypassed.
Sending shivers through your spine.
Long notes like that are going to be challenging.
Moving at the speed of light. Tensions rising high.
All right, so it doesn't sound bad. Now I'm going to enable this, and the first job we need to do is tell it what key we're working in. Now, if you don't know the key, there's a couple of different ways that we can do it. I'm going to start by playing it.
The choir cuts just like the
And you
knife.
see these heat maps for the input and then the corrected notes. But more importantly, we see these white lines under the notes that are used. So I see a bold light under the C sharp telling me that that's likely the root key, and then a couple of other notes, D flat and E and F sharp. That's looking suspiciously like C sharp minor to me.
The choir cuts just like
But I can also
knife.
click to audition notes
Sending shivers through your spine.
to try and figure out what the tonic or root key is.
Tensions rising high.
Now I can also audition chords. For example, here I'm going to press minor. Now I'm back to a single note, but I can use the hold button so it'll stay on minor chords.
Moving at the speed of light. Tensions rising high.
So it sounds like this is the tonic key and chord, the D flat minor, and this will only sound while it's playing. Now without hold on, it'll revert back to note mode. So I'm going to click here and set the key. We click in this field here. I'll go to D flat minor or C sharp minor, same thing. D flat and then minor, and then we can always customize it by clicking on additional notes. But I'm going to leave it like that for now. Now, the first thing we want to adjust is the speed parameter, and this is going to have the most effect in terms of how natural and transparent the correction is versus how robotic and quantized it sounds. We can adjust with this knob or using this orb. So lower values under about 20 seconds till about 200 are going to be the most natural. From 20 to 0, we have that kind of famous, the robotic vocal quantized hard-pitched effect. But then, unique to MetaTune, we can go above and into negative values. And at negative tuning speeds, we'll get an even harder tuning effect. And we've also got a note stabilizer control here, which we'll look at in a moment, to compensate, to get really interesting hard quantized effects. But let's go with something more natural to start with. I'm going to start down low.
The choir cuts just like the knife.
Somewhere around there.
Sending shivers through your spine.
Okay, so when we have that long sustained note with those vocal drops, we have the sustain parameter here, which is great. We can increase or reduce the retune speed based on how long a note is held. So if we increase this to positive values, it'll make held notes retune faster. So we'll get more nuances and tuning effects. But we can go negative, which might work nicely for this, for a natural transparent effect where the held notes are retuned at a slower speed and it prevents retuning from happening too quickly.
The choir cuts just like the knife. Sending shivers through your spine.
So those are left alone nicely.
Moving at the speed of light.
We can go higher.
Tensions rising high.
So very natural like that. And we can see
The
here
pressure doesn't want to stop.
the amount of correction going on.
The heat is boiling you up.
Very natural, no artifacts.
Moving at the speed of light.
Now let's go for something more exaggerated.
The choir cuts just like the knife. Sending shivers through your spine.
So there's our typical kind of hard
Moving at the
quantized
speed
effect.
of light. Tensions rising high.
Now let's say I'm going to go above into the negative
pressure
territory.
doesn't want to stop.
And again, we can
The
click
heat
here
is boiling you up.
and drag there. And we can use the outer ring for the amount
Moving at the speed
for kind of parallel
light.
processing.
Tensions rising high.
Now the phrase coming up is going to be problematic.
Can you feel the passion in the air?
So it's retuning too quickly. And we have the note stabilizer function here to correct for that. It solves the problem of overcorrecting when we get that fluttering effect by retuning the audio to short notes that we don't want, like that vibrato at the end of the word air. So with note stabilizer mode on, I have 3 modes. I can go with short notes where it'll leave notes shorter than 40 milliseconds alone, 80 or 200. And let's try it with the long mode.
Can you feel the passion in the air? Oh,
Now listen to the word air with this off.
can the passion in the air.
So much more natural sounding when we have the note stabilizer to correct for that fluttering effect and dial in a bit of negative sustain, and that'll bring us home.
Can you feel the passion in the air? Over the horizon, see the light is drawing near. Standing with the spirit, feel your chest.
So very interesting overtuning effect. Now let's go back to something a little more natural, which we had down around here.
The quiet touch
And we can dial in this lovely sounding doubler effect.
sending shivers through your spine.
Vertical will adjust the dry wet, and the width is on the horizontal axis.
The pressure doesn't want to stop.
And combine it with the dry wet,
The heat is boiling
and you got a great vocal
up.
production tool here.
Moving at the speed of light. We are drawn with love and intoxicated.
Here I've got some stacked vocals.
We're young and full.
And there's a new feature in MetaTune that I haven't seen in any other vocal tuning plugin, and it's fantastic. When you're working with stacked vocals like this, we can assign them to a group so that when we make changes on one, it'll apply to all. So I'm just assigning this all to group 1. Now I can see I have 2 members, and the next track, group 1, I have 3 members, and now I have 4 members. So let's say, for example, I'm going to set this key to A minor. Now, if I go to the other instances, we'll see they're all set. Let's adjust some of the settings. So let's say I want that. 9.9 minus 28. They're all automatically updated. So fantastic when you're working with stacked vocals. Same thing with the doubling.
We are drawn with love and intoxicated.
So all of a sudden I've got a nice choir sound with every one of them doubled. So that's MetaTune, the new vocal tuning plugin from Slate. Head over to Production Expert and check out my full review and get my final thoughts on it. I'll see you for more next time. This is Eli Kranzberg for Production Expert.